For the last few weeks, the topic of special intensive revision, which was ongoing in Bihar, has been in news. The question stipulates from various areas regarding the legal sanctity of right to vote, or basically the power of the election commission, can they do this exercise or not. Now, our article has featured yesterday also, and every day we find a mention around the political horizon regarding the special intensive revision, and this matter has also reached to the levels of Supreme Court. The question lies the same. What basically is the special intensive revision? Why it is problematic? Is it equivalent to the NRC? Or if the special intensive revision and the delimitation which is scheduled it, can these be the game changer in the Indian political setup, or what the opposition called it as a majoritarian bias? My name is Ankit Kaul. Through this video, we'll try to understand that what are the nuances from the special intensive revision, why it is problematic, what are the set of arguments that have been given in the Supreme Court by the Election Commission while defending the exercise. Now, the first thing to understand is what basically is this special intensive revision. The special intensive revision was basically rolled out in Bihar, and this was done after the year of 2003. The last exercise was done in Bihar in the year of 2003, and this exercise has been done in order to ensure that the electoral rolls in Bihar are revised and to update the voter list ahead of the state assembly elections that are scheduled around November. Now, the first thing that comes into mind, does the Election Commission has this power? So the answer is yes. The Election Commission has this power under Article 324, under Article 326, and also through the Section 21 of the Representation of People Act. And these arguments have been highlighted by the Election Commission even in the Supreme Court, when they have highlighted that they have this constitutional obligation to do the same and also has the power. Now, what is the issue? The issue that has been highlighted that why this exercise is needed is that rapid urbanization, migration out of Bihar, young citizens becoming eligible to vote, and that of non-reporting of deaths and inclusion of names of foreign illegal immigrants needs to be taken into account, such that the people who get the right to vote in the upcoming election reflects the true people of the Bihar. Now, first we should understand why this exercise is positive in nature, or what has been the argument behind the same. These arguments are also similar to the arguments made by the Election Commission in the Supreme Court while defending the exercise. Now, the first thing or the first exercise that we can see is that it basically highlights the nature in enhancing the electoral roll integrity. Because Election Commission tells that this exercise will bring the purity, as the non-citizens, deceased individual, or those who have permanently migrated out of Bihar, their name will be removed from the electoral voter list. And this will reflect the true political nature, and this will also reflect how the right to vote is exercised in a legal manner. The ECI has reported that 97% of electors have been verified and 52 ineligible names of the voter were identified, underscoring the importance of such audits in reserving election accuracy. So the major argument given by the Election Commission is that the ineligible names have been removed, 97% of the names have been re-verified, and now the people that have been left with reflects the citizen, and this is the purity that they intend to bring in. And this is a welcome change. This is a positive change that needs to be brought in, because at any given point of time, Election Commission should reflect, or the voter list should reflect, the true nature of the people who are voting for the elections. Second, it highlights that it also leads to an inclusion of eligible votes. Now, no matter what the allegation on Election Commission is, or whatever the opposition is saying, one of the critical arguments that has been highlighted by the Election Commission is that It is basically an en masse inclusion exercise. The opposition cries foul and saying it that it is an exclusionary exercise. But the Election Commission basically is highlighting that a lot of new eligible voters will be added. And this is basically a mass inclusion exercise rather than the exclusionary exercise for which they have been limited the charges with. Third thing that they are highlighting is that it will address the demographic changes. It will take into account the rapid urbanization, migration, and underreporting of the deaths that have been done. And they have highlighted that over 1 crore deaths and 70 lakh migrations have occurred in Bihar since the year of 2003 when the last revision was done in Bihar. So Election Commission is well inbound with the power, as well as they are representing the hard data facts wherein they are highlighting why this exercise is important. And this process, they are also highlighting that this process is transparent and is also leading to political participation, wherein they have highlighted the fact that there are people who have actively contributed. The political parties are going with booth level officers to re-verify the voters. So they are basically coming out with the forms, and these forms are basically pre-filled, and the booth level officers along with the political party representatives have been going and re-verifying the entire exercise. Election Commission also highlights that the demands for the voter revision list was intent coming from the political parties themselves. And it is on the advice of the political parties that the Election Commission has taken up this summary revision exercise. So this special intensive revision has some critical points been made by the Election Commission. But this does not mean that all the arguments made by the opposition are false. The opposition parties as well as the legal representatives in the Supreme Court have highlighted some of the crucial issues. For example, lawyers like that of Kapil Sibal have highlighted that this is an exercise that is nothing more than a majoritarian push for the NRC. Political thinkers like Pratap Bhanu Mehta has highlighted that this is an absurd de-exclusionary exercise. It will lead to exclusion and it will lead to disenfranchisement of the people and their right to vote. So what are the arguments against the exercise? Let us also look at them. The first issue is that arbitrary and unconstitutional process. For example, they have highlighted this process as de novo preparation of electoral rolls. What is this de novo preparation of electoral rolls? The point simply wants to tell you that they are putting the onus of proving the candidature or basically proving the citizenship on the voter themselves. Otherwise, the onus to prove whether you are a resident of Bihar or not usually basically lies with the government agency like that of Election Commission. But now the whole exercise has been changed and the obligation is on the voter to prove whether he is a resident of Bihar or not. And this basically becomes problematic, as they have highlighted that this is a violation of Article 14, 19 and 21. That is, it goes against basically the right to equality, the freedom of expression and also right to life. So they have involved broader constitutional articles and the fundamental rights in order to justify this indiscriminate exercise being done by the Election Commission. The second point that they have highlighted is that it will lead to large-scale disenfranchisement of the marginalized communities. Why they are saying so? Let us understand one thing. Suppose you are a migrant laborer from Bihar. Now you are working outside the state. Now when this exercise will begin, although this exercise has now been concluded, when this exercise has begun and the new list is basically coming in, so if you are working outside Bihar, you have to first come back to basically register yourself. Then you will come for the voting when it will happen. And then there can be also an incident when you have to come back in case if your vote is not in the draft list that has been reduced. And then you can challenge basically that your name has been excluded in front of the Election Commission. So do you think a migrant laborer who might be earning 200 or 300 rupees per day will be taking that time to come from that state, spending the money on the same amount, basically losing the opportunity cost while he is not working, and go for this exercise. The first instance that might come into the mind of that migrant laborer is to rather go off the vote. And this will be seen as an exercise which will basically be exclusionary, and it will disenfranchise the marginalized communities the most, especially from the vulnerable groups like poor, migrant and lower caste, undermining the principle of universal right to adult suffrage. Then the exercise has also been criticized for its short time frame. No consultative mechanism was brought in, and this has been also highlighted by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has told that they have no problem with the special intensive revision or any kind of revisionary exercise. But the problem here is that of timing. The time that has been given and the time that has been given to the migrant laborers to register themselves has been very less. And massive powers have been given to the booth level organizers. These booth level officers will basically have the final say whether someone is having the voting right availability or not. And this power has been misutilized, or this power can be misutilized by the BLO. This can also become a systemic way of doing niche level corruption or petty corruption, as we can call it, as the voting right can be guaranteed by the BLO in return of some amount of money. So these are allegations, that nothing is of proof for now, but these are the allegations that have been put forward. The next point that they have highlighted is that potential for majoritarian agenda. Now this has been highlighted as a push in the Supreme Court also, that this is nothing, SIR is nothing, it is basically a backdoor channel entry of the NRC. It has started from Bihar and it will be done for the entire country. Now the Election Commission has itself told that they will continue this exercise for the entire country because this is what their constitutional mandate has been, to continuously update the voter list. But the critiques have highlighted that these will be utilized for pushing the majoritarian agenda of NRC aimed at establishing a majoritarian Hindu state, because it will be disproportionately reflecting the minority and the marginalized voters. Now, what has been the argument given by the Election Commission in the Supreme Court against the same? The argument that has been given by the Supreme Court in the Supreme Court by the Election Commission is that SIR is well under the constitutional mandate of the Election Commission. I have told you earlier also, they have highlighted Article 324, Article 326 and Section 21(3) of the Representation of People Act. So yes, they do have a constitutional mandate to exercise this right. That is why Supreme Court has told it that they are not against the exercise, because this is a constitutional mandate that has been given to this constitutional body of Election Commission. The problem is with the timing, and the second problem is with basically the documents that you are requiring, because your normal documents like that of Aadhaar, etc. are not considered in the set of documents that are being asked by the Election Commission to prove the residentship. And the onus basically becomes also problematic because they have to put forward with the documents of their parents. Now, understanding the low levels of literacy that is in Bihar, there might be a situation that many of the population, many of the members might not have this kind of data or this kind of documents available with them. If they have their documents, they might not possess the document of their parents, especially whose name have not appeared in the 2003 electoral list. Now, second thing that we have to understand, that there have been allegations by the opposition also, in the sense that when they have highlighted the elections in Maharashtra or in Delhi, so they have said that the systematic exclusion of some people, and their voting rights is basically problematic, because they have highlighted the number of seats in Delhi and Maharashtra elections, where they have showcased that due to this systematic exclusion, there have been massive changes in the result. because the margin of victory is very bleak. And that is why opposition is hell-bent on taking this issue to the Supreme Court and get some kind of relief from the Supreme Court. Now, the next thing that the Election Commission has told is basically they have highlighted a Supreme Court judgment itself, that is MS Gill versus the Chief Election Commissioner, which has affirmed that ECI has the broad power to ensure fair election, and this includes the maintenance of integrity of the electoral roll. So Supreme Court, the Election Commission has highlighted where the power comes from. So they have highlighted the constitutional provisions, the Representation of People Act, that is the statutory act, and also coming from what we call as the Supreme Court judgment itself. Now, the second thing that they have highlighted is that there is a necessity due to the outdated electoral rules because the last revision happened in 2003. So the Election Commission is point on here because they are highlighting that the last exercise was more than 20 years ago and there is a need for the revision for the electoral rolls. Now, Election Commission, I also told you, that has claimed that the SIR was initiated in response to the complaints from the political parties themselves. So there was a demand coming from the political parties to go for the revision. And Election Commission is saying that they are just following what has been asked for them or requested to them by the different political parties. And the ECI has also stated that in Supreme Court that in order to maintain the transparency, the Election Commission has basically made sure that all major political parties have participated in the process by deploying over 150,000 booth level agents to assist with the voter verification. All the safeguard and due process have been followed. House to house verification has been done by the BLOs and the pre-filled enumeration forms have been rolled out. And this act also gives a chance for basically seeking any kind of decision or challenging any kind of decision that has been made regarding the exclusion of any voter. So in Supreme Court, the Election Commission has highlighted that they are well within the power. They have followed the due process. The process was necessary because the last election revision was done in 2003 and they have entrusted all the political parties, and the political party or the opposition is just basically making use or making it as a political stigma to basically garner some of the political votes. Next, that they have highlighted that this is a precedent and nationwide relevance will also happen. The Election Commission has defended the SIR by noting that similar interventions have been done in the past in 1952, 61, 83 and 2003, and this is a current exercise is the first step in a nationwide revision. So what I have told you earlier, that Election Commission has highlighted that this will not stop in Bihar, but this is a necessary revisionary exercise which will be continued for across the country. So now we have to look for the draft that the Election Commission will come out today, and we have to also check what are the summary evictions that have been done, how the people who have been evicted from the voter list, if there is a genuinity of that cases, whether they will be included in the list and how they will be included in the list or not. Because right to vote is basically a fundamental legal right that basically it is a legal right that we enjoy. So it is a question mark on the sanctity of the Election Commission itself. And we need to keep one thing in mind, that Election Commission in the past has been challenged because of various reasons regarding its biasness, when an ex-election commissioner like that of Ashok Lavasa has highlighted that the Election Commission had the bias towards the majority party, or during the assemblies that were conducted or the poll assemblies that were conducted during the COVID times, when there was a direction made by the Election Commission that no large-scale rally should be organized, or whether it is regarding choosing the Election Commissioner itself, when there has been a demand that it should be inclusive, for which the Supreme Court also gave out a judgment. However, the government has made sure that the executive dominance prevail, as the PM, leader of opposition, and a minister nominated by the PM will now be basically choosing the Election Commissioner. So there have been allegations on the Election Commission and its functioning. These have been highlighted by various political parties in the past. Even this had led to the intervention by the Supreme Court. So now we have to check and keep a tab on how this news will develop, what will happen with the people, and what rights they will get if their name have not been included in the revised or the draft voter list. And how they will exercise their rights, we have to keep a tab on that. We'll come with a video on that also, on how this exercise is unfolding itself. I hope through this video, you are now understanding the arguments made by both the sides, that is the election commission or the government, and also from the opposition when the matter is being heard in the Supreme Court. We have also seen the constitutional provisions and the provision of the Representation of People Act, which gives the power to the Election Commission to do this exercise. And we have also observed that this is not the first time that this exercise has been done. It has started way back in 1951, has been continually done after that. And this exercise will not stop at Bihar, will be conducted across India. So we have to follow the news, and we also have to keep a tab on how basically this news will further develop, such that we can understand the minor nuances, because in UPSC also they have asked you a question regarding the validity or basically the status of right to vote. I hope the topic was clear to you and you have a better understanding of what are the issues that are involved with the case. Thank you.